Hello and welcome to all new Real Monsters. And like last week, we have switched up the format for people who don't know. We do not cover just one person every week. No, we cover everyone from our mini monsters that are up free on Spotify every week as our mini-sodes and are now solely narrated by the gorgeous and sexy Amy Rose, my co-host for today. And every day.
Every day.
Yeah, so we got some good ones this week.
Oh, except Mondays when you're my co-host. Oh, well, I suppose co-host is...
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Co-hosts.
Co-host.
Yes, it's a team. One host is not over the other, Amy.
I just realised that. The way you word it sounds like you're hostier than I am.
Why, you're my co-host?
Oh, no, I realised that's not what
I didn't say my assistant host. But yeah, so this week we have Marianne Cotton, Burk and Hare, Travis Walton, and the Annabelle doll.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got, to be fair, though, I had 24 hours. I have about 24 hours between when the mini monsters are recorded to when Real Monsters is recorded. And that gives me 24 hours to do as much research as I can, which isn't a whole lot. Nope. Now, I managed to get a documentary in on everybody bar Burk and Hare.
Burk and Hare is hard.
Yeah, I don't know a whole pile about them.
But it's hard to find good, decent information about
But do you know what turned me off it?
What?
Was when not turned me off it, but turned me off watching like the movies. We'd say, for example,
they weren't historically accurate
because you pointed out in Mini Monsters that the movies were vastly fucking different. And then listening to the story and then realizing Simon Pegg plays one of them in the movies, it's like, well, that's not going to be the real story. It's the same story.
It's a good movie, but
it's going to be a comedy, so it's not going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of just decided, fuck it. Hey, you're a history buff. You know enough about Burk and Hare to get through that bit. Huh?
The Anatomy.
24 hours.
The Anatomy Murders. That's what it was called. No, I haven't read that. I must actually read that. Yeah.
But they seem. It is. I mean, it's an interesting story. It's a crazy story. And
crazy story.
Whenever I have asked in the past about examples of Irish serial killers, they're the guys that come up.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a whole pile. We don't have a whole pile of serial killers. We got a lot of killers, not a lot of serial killers. But Burk and Hare, and they have way more bodies than I thought.
I didn't realise the extent either. I thought they got caught pretty fast, but there's a good few there.
Yeah, fucking hell. I mean, even the episode, I call it a mini-sode, but it went for half an hour.
It was a long episode. Yeah. So basically, they killed 16, like you said, that there was that many bodies. I thought maybe there was 3, 4, 5, maybe.
But that's 16. Kind of what I had thought as well. I don't know why I thought that. I just never kind of. I suppose again, I never really looked into them that much.
Yeah.
When I wanted to know about Irish serial killers, I wanted modern. I didn't want to. Kind of by default, these guys over in England caused this trouble back in fucking how many years ago? I mean,
that's not them. They actually did, not by default. They actually did kill them.
Oh, I know that, but they're Irish, but they didn't. I'm looking for people who are active in Ireland.
Oh, in Ireland. I mean,
I'm sure there's plenty of those American serial killers that can scream, "I'm Irish." I mean, enough of the Americans do, so I'm sure I'm sure Gacy or someone had a fucking great grandmother who came from fucking here or something.
Probably.
You know, so I mean, Irish serial killer is one thing. I mean, one that operated here, and everyone would always say Burk and Hare because it was so close. And it's actually in Scotland, though, is it?
Scotland, Edinburgh. Yeah. Okay. So they committed the murders over a period of about 10 months in 1828 in Edinburgh. And they sold the corpses then to Robert Knox for dissection at his anatomy lectures. And Robert Knox, he was basically, I wouldn't say the father of anatomy, but he was huge. They say that anatomy in England, the study of anatomy wouldn't have come as far if it wasn't for Robert Knox. So he was pretty high profile to have been.
Do you know, I was when you were kind of reading out about him to me. And I know I've compared him a few times in the last few weeks since we've done him. But again, Herbert West came straight to my mind. And the Mary Riley movie.
Dr. Jekyll and
Mr. Hyde. Yeah. That whole kind of his lab kept coming into my head, like they would be delivering it to Dr. Jekyll.
Well, that's exactly the setup. Like if you think of like in that movie and like the dissection theatre, that's exactly the type of place that they'd have been delivering the bodies to.
That's mental. But yeah, I really saw this Dr. Knox as Herbert West.
I could see that
doing it. Like he knew where the bodies were coming from, but he was, and it should have. I didn't know where the bodies were coming from. Again,
you didn't know on purpose. You knew, but you chose not to ask.
I'm going to make that point, but just to for anybody that doesn't know, if you're expecting us to get into the bio of these guys again, we did a half an hour on them, on the mini-sodes, on mini monsters. From now on, the full bios go up there, and then we just discuss it over here. So you need to listen to mini monsters, then come over here. That's why all 4 mini monsters go on Patreon on a Monday.
Yeah.
You only get them spaced out if you're not paying.
Exactly.
But you won't be hearing this anyway if you're not paying, so it doesn't make a difference.
But we did just say...
But yeah, I was just before I got into it, because I didn't want to jump this deep into the story without kind of... because if someone's listening and was like, well, I don't know shit about Burk and Hare. Well, just go about 3 or 4 posts back there, buddy, and you'll find it.
We're there.
It's right there.
Exactly.
But Dr. Knox, the thing that sold me on the fact that he knew exactly what was up was, number 1, the frequency they were coming at him with him, and number 2... when he thought he was going to be raided over a body being recognized
straight away.
The head went and the feet went straight away.
Yeah.
So that was taken away.
Just to point out again, it was the feet of somebody.
Why the feet?
Because
I would have thought the hands for the fingerprints.
He was disabled and he walked with a very pronounced limp. So he took the feet so he couldn't prove that it was this guy that had a deformed foot that had the limp.
Because that was it, wasn't it? So his students were like, we know this dude.
Yeah,
it's like, no, you don't. No,
and
different
again,
guy.
With fingerprints back then, unless somebody had been in trouble, it's so like they weren't going to have fingerprints for everybody. And this guy, he was supposed to be a nice guy, gentle guy. You know, he was disabled, but he was well known around the town, so they probably wouldn't have had his fingerprints. So they didn't need to worry about that.
Yeah. No, it was just a thought that came into my head. It was like, why the fuck? But like, yeah, obviously, that was instant admission again.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, this guy didn't really suffer. Well, he suffered in the sense of he lost his kind of career out of it, didn't he?
He was just eventually disbarred from the Royal College of Surgeons. He had to.
But it took a long time afterwards. He still had a career for a while afterwards.
Yeah, he did.
He went kind of, was it lecturing or something like that? Or
he went lecturing. Like, let me have it. Eventually, he did go to London. Like his reputation in Scotland was ruined. Absolutely ruined. Yeah. He, like I said, he was disbarred from the Royal College of Surgeons. I don't even think he could be a practicing doctor anymore.
But what year is this again?
This happened in 1828.
Well, then let's be fair about the situation. If the guy has the qualifications, all he really has to do is move. You know, it's not like once he's out of Scotland, it's not like he can't move to the Americas or move into Europe somewhere.
You would think that, but then when you look at Mary Ann Cotton, who he also covers, and her past eventually caught up with her. Like, she did marry, she moved on, she married and moved on, and everybody thought like but
there's a paper trail there.
There was a paper trail there.
Consciously got up and said, okay, I am leaving the area completely far, far away from here, and I'm starting with a fresh name, and I'm starting and telling nobody about my past. In that case, you're going to get away with it.
No, I agree with you, but like, I would just say that like, law enforcement thought that there was no evidence to back up anything at first until the media actually was like, oh, there's rumours here, and they had to go looking and track down everything for Mary Ann. So there's still a bit of work in, but they tracked her down, like, do you know?
Well, and what was it? But yeah, what was it? Oh yeah, that was the question I had. Do you think that Burk and Hare did this strictly financially? Or do you think they enjoyed doing what they were doing?
No, I think it was financial.
Do you think?
Yeah.
16 people?
Yeah, I think it was financial.
And then to jump to that conclusion almost straight away, like, I mean, it was literally a case of, well, we have an inconvenient fucking customer here. What will we do with it? Sorry,
that wasn't strictly financial. That was, well, I suppose it was in a roundabout way. It's so that business wouldn't be harmed by having a poorly lodger at the lodging house.
I know one of them. I know the one that got away with it. Say that he was all haunted by it later in life, but he has to say that. If you get away with fucking killing 16 people and people start asking you how you feel about it later, you got to be like, oh, the other guy made me do it. I have nightmares about it. I'm haunted by it. But really, honest to God, I don't think you can kill 16 people without having some sort of sick, twisted enjoyment in it.
No, I would agree with you, but when you look at the fact that William Burk was only earning about, okay, it was good at the time, but he was earning about £1 a week as a shoemaker, and then when you take into account their bodies, that when they were selling them, they were getting 10 in the winter and 8 in the summer.
But they were
that's the equivalent of a month's wages when split between the two of them. Like.
I know, but unless what I'm saying is, it still has to be some sort of a fantasy of theirs, because you wouldn't jump straight to it otherwise. You and me have had situations where we have both been, as a couple, as a family, in our early days, like most young families in their early days, would have been stuck for fucking cash. Not once did you and me look at each other and go, let's go kill somebody. You know, it wasn't.
We have nobody to sell the body to, Josh. That's going to look like turn up at what KUH here. Look, where's my
there somewhere. But the point is, even to rob, then or to do anything illegal.
Oh yeah,
it never entered your brain to do that kind of thing. But for them, it was a very quick transition from we have someone here who's sick and is going to make our business look bad. Well, we could kill him and sell the body.
But they didn't kill the first one. No. But I'll just point out they didn't kill the first body that they sold. They sold the first body out of convenience because he died of dropsy. That was a natural death.
Yeah,
so maybe seeing how easy it was to just... They don't have to do any of the dirty work. They don't have to dispose of the body properly. They don't have to dig a grave. They don't have to chop it up. They don't have to do... All they have to do is smother that person. There's two big, strong men there. They're going to be well able, and they're, the elderly woman. It was easy for them once the two of them were together. So it was... That's what I think. It was financial. It was...
Even though they fell out at one point because one of them thought the other one did it without him.
Oh, yeah.
And he turned up with a load of money.
Yeah, because if you did it without them, obviously they weren't going to half the money. That's why he's... But for that reason, I think that's where the transition was. They sold their first body because he died of natural cause. It was like, oh, this is actually pretty easy. Then they had the lodger that was inconvenient to them. So that's where it started. Could do that, and then it just came easy after that to them.
No, I'm not saying that the money wasn't a huge motivation from it. Obviously was, and it's obviously going to push them over the limit. But I'm just saying that it didn't take much to push them over that limit.
No,
to go that direction. Do you know?
That's true.
That's all I'm saying. And obviously then, well, I suppose it does, you have to take into account as well in their lifestyle, because they were kind of, am I right in saying they were kind of known to be kind of
rowdy and
drinking, gambling, kind of barfly kind of type of guys who were pissing away all their money up against the fucking wall and stuff.
I would agree, definitely.
So I mean, they would have raced through that money quick and been on. And again, I don't know what type of drugs that would have been available at that stage, but I have seen people who would be addicted to drugs who will be willing to do anything at the time when they want that fixed,
Yeah.
So I mean, I know I got one or two guys who went out and did some illegal stuff, and in their head they weren't doing anything wrong because they were fucked up off their head.
Yeah.
But it was, when you look back on it, it will be like, fuck me, what were they thinking,
Definitely.
No. Yeah. One of the two was doing good, the other one of the two was doing bad. But which way? The one that's doing good is the one that stayed away from drugs after that. The one that's doing bad stayed on the drugs doing that. But I would just wonder, would they have had access to drugs at that stage? Would they be taking stuff? Would they be spending their money on that as well? Because that can obviously have an effect on your mindset and how desperate they are to get money and how willing they are. To play devil's advocate against my own argument that I just think that they're killers regardless.
I will say, I don't know which one of them it was, if it was Burk or Hare, but one of them did say after the murders that he frequently drank to sleep at night, and he frequently took opium to sleep at night after the murders. So who's to say he didn't take the opium beforehand, is what I'm saying.
I'm claiming he was Hare that got away with it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm claiming that he had to say all that shit afterwards, because you have to. It's the same as the guy that gets out of jail after doing time. I
agree with what you're saying there, but I'm just pointing out that if he was having the opium to sleep, he was probably having the he could have been,
that he was all once a smack it, always a smack it.
Exactly.
That's not true though. You can get help at these days, and but I assume back then help wouldn't have been so easy to come by.
No, you'd have been thrown.
The way you got clean back in those days, you were probably locked in a room until you got through the horrors, and if you survived it,
great.
Best of luck.
If you didn't, sure. I will just point out though as well that first body is very, very touch and go whether they were actually breaking the law by selling that first body, because that body belonged to no one once it died. You couldn't steal the possessions, you couldn't rob a grave, but that body, the act of selling the body itself,
so as long as it wasn't in the grave already. When did that get revised? Because I know, would the body not be seen in a religious sense? Would it not? Because we discussed this on Playing with Bones, and I kept asking you, why the fuck these people who were afraid of vampires and zombies and stuff weren't just burning their dead instead of burying them? You said it was because the body was seen as a whole, as something, you had to go through the ceremony of being buried and ritual, and that the body was still seen as God's body and all that. It basically, in a religious way, it was sacrilegious to do anything to this body.
But that's
why... But at the same time, then you're saying the law was saying, well, actually, we don't give
nobody owns. But that's why when you were doing it kind of above board, it was people that had died by suicide, criminals, orphans, foundlings. Those were the kind of bodies that were people like, bring them on in. Because,
and that's what they made the law after Burk and Hare, wasn't it? That it was basically only those kind of what they would see is, I suppose.
That was before Burk and Hare. That's what the normal person would have sold before Burk and Hare, is what I'm saying.
I thought they said at the end of that article that they brought in a new law, and I thought it was that they were stricter on that they had to be kind of orphans or foundlings or fucking criminals or murderers and stuff like that.
So there is an act that authorised a section of bodies from workhouses that were claimed after 48, that were unclaimed after 48 hours. That was enacted in 1832. So you had to be in a workhouse and your body had to be unclaimed for 48 hours. So that was after Burk and Hare were caught. But the interesting thing is in mid-1828, there was a law brought before the House of Parliament. And it was called the Bill for Preventing the Unlawful Disinterment of Human Bodies and for Regulating Schools of Anatomy. But it was rejected before the House of Lords. So that literally, they tried to bring that into law 6 months before they detected the Burk and Hare murders.
Okay.
But it was refused by the House of Lords. And then after the Burk and Hare murders...
But that was because they were having the problem of the demand was higher than the supply.
That's it, like, yeah.
They needed the bodies too. I understand why they needed the bodies.
It progresses to where we are now, like, don't get me wrong. Like,
science that we have.
People do leave their bodies to science now. Loads of people. But
obviously back then it would have been just kind of more Wild West about it, and if you had no family to claim you were going to...
If you died on the streets, you're going to end up in an anatomist lecture theatre, most likely. Like, nobody was going to...
Yeah. But even then, at the end of that, they're going to just eventually fucking bury you anyway, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Maybe
or would that be a case of because we have it now, we use everything and we get the bones out of it as well to get a skeleton?
Depends what you're looking for. I mean, like, anatomists, they usually want wet specimens, so they're interested in everything fleshy.
Sounds so disgusting.
Well, dry specimen, wet specimen, yeah. But, and that's what they'd want it for.
Specimen isn't wet enough. Start with it a bit.
That's why dry bones is called dry bones, because it's just bones. But where was I going with this? What did you say?
Oh Christ! Yeah.
No. The demand was really high, and it was usually higher in winter as well, because you could store your corpses in winter because it was colder.
Yeah. Well, it would make sense.
It would make sense, yeah.
Because I was surprised though when the price was better during the winter. Because I would have thought that the price was better during the summer because of how quick you'd have to get the body to them. That it would be more of a panic, so you get extra money for fucking getting it to them.
Oh no!
In top notch conditions so quickly.
But there wasn't a lot of lecturers because number one, no, they couldn't store them. But number two, like, it was summer. It's probably like school here, like you had your few weeks off.
But that is how it would have went, because to bring it back to Reanimator, the book, the H.P. Lovecraft book, which would have been roughly around the same time, but he would have started later. It would have been about 100 years later, wouldn't it?
100 years later,
just under 100 years later.
He would have been the late
1800s. He would have been the late 1800s, but he specified that as well in the book that Dan Kane is Superman.
Oh, TV Superman.
Every time I was reading that, every time I went to say Dan Kane's name, I was like, I'm going to say Dean Kane soon. I know I'm going to say Dean Kane soon. I got to listen back to that and make sure I didn't.
Say Dan Kane.
But the Herbert West and Dan Kane would stay back for the summers because there was less lectures, meaning there was less laboratory time being used, and there was more access to fresh bodies because they were being used up during the winter lectures, but there's no one there during the summer, so the bodies will come to them first and they get first whack at them. But so I suppose there is that.
But also, I would think that as well, that if you're given a lecture, I mean, like when we had lectures in college, some of them were an hour, some of them were 2 hours. If you are bringing in, I mean, the human body, I mean, like the certain like systems and are so fucking vast that you need more than an hour or two. So you probably had a corpse and you were working on it in this lecture. You might come back to like another part for the next lecture. So like you would need to stay going for a few days. Like so, winter would probably be the perfect time to do it.
I was just about to say, was there any way to like refrigerate the room or keep the room cold who...
No, they had ice room, like, well, I don't know if this is in the 1800s, but there's actually one in Blarney Castle as well, and it's their little ice hut. But you go out and it's like, looks like kind of like nearly a big igloo on top, but you look in and it goes way down. It's like a big thick well, like to keep things cold.
They dig a huge hole to keep stuff cold, to keep them
warm. Same way that when us, the Irish, well, I presume in few other cultures, thousands of years ago, we used to bury stuff in the bog to keep it cold. To throw
that was where I
jug of milk into the bog.
Yeah, you told me that. And that's strange because I don't know, but obviously I think bog heat for two reasons. One, because we use the fucking turf from it to keep house, and number two, whenever anybody's going out cutting turf in the bog,
be careful of the fire, guys. Yeah, the bog fire,
scorching hot every time. I mean, in Ireland, when it is a summer, for the week of summer that we get. Everybody in the countryside is out in the bog cutting fucking turf. I've never done it in my life.
Turn the turf. I would say there's a lot of bogs as well. The one near us at home, there's loads of signs around just to beware of bog fires. My dad was in a bog fire when he was younger.
Oh, they just break out. That's just because it's so dry.
Hot, and, yeah. Well, I mean, we use it in our fires to heat our home. So imagine if the top layer is like completely dehydrated.
But I thought the idea of turning the turf is to dry it. Yeah, because it comes out wet, doesn't it?
Well, like, yeah, but like, as in, like, when you cut it, it might just be like that much on the top that's dry. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, but it's enough. Yeah.
And could the whole field go on fire if it was like that?
Do you remember the fires here a few years ago? I mean, when I first moved to Kerry, kind of up in that, nobody can see where I'm pointing, but it's up in the mountains that way. That was all bog and gorse. That's what happened. It takes hold. It's flammable, like.
The Americans are here going, yeah, fuck off. We have forest fires. Listening to those fucking bog
We had fucking bog holes to go with the fires.
To be fair, though, we've never had to evacuate our house over a fucking bog fire.
No, but people, not us, but people close to that fire that time did have to evacuate their houses. It was all over the place. Yeah.
That's mental. Yeah, bogs. Stay away from them. They're dangerous.
They're also fun.
Do you know who else is dangerous?
Marianne Cotton.
Hell yeah. And I managed to get, it was the great Martina Cole again that brought me her documentary. And I swear to God, it's like listening to the Cray sisters, for a Cray twin sister, when you're watching that fucking show. She sounds like she is right out of EastEnders.
Marianne Cotton or Martina Cole?
Oh, Martina Cole.
Oh, I was wondering.
Marianne Cotton, how the fuck would I know what she sounds like?
I know, that's what I wanted
a bit before the time of recording, wasn't she? But this again is just mind-boggling, to be honest with you.
Wait, reading the story and, okay, it's awful about the husbands, but thinking about that many children. And then when I read that she didn't die by her neck breaking, which was the usual method when people were hung, she died from strangulation because the rope was too short and they reckoned that was on purpose. And I will just say, fucking good enough for her.
But apparently, it was in the documentary today that hangman was known for it. He was known for being cruel.
No way.
He was known to be a cruel hangman, and he did that on purpose.
I need to go see if we can...
I can't remember his name, but apparently he did it on purpose, and he used to do this regularly. That if he didn't like, especially if he didn't like the person, but he was cruel, and that was done on purpose, and it took her like 20 minutes to die.
I would just say, though, for someone like Marianne Cotton, I wouldn't agree with it in every circumstance, but Marianne Cotton, she fucking deserved that.
But again, like they tried to kind of talk her up on the thing. What are you looking for? She's storming around here looking for something while I'm trying to talk to her. I sit here and I pay attention while she tells me.
I'm talking to you. I'm just looking for a pen so I can write down Marianne's executioner's name.
But they tried, I don't know, was it just Martina Cole's thing? Because they kind of tried it as well with Elizabeth Bathory, where they kind of they give you all the gory details and then kind of try and feminize it up and kind of say, well, really, like, is it really her fault or was she just trying to take the power back at the time? And it's like, hang on, no, the power back is when you, maybe with the guys if they're being dickheads to you, but the kids, I mean, what, she had 13 kids, isn't it?
She had 13
and 2 of them survived.
2 of them survived. I don't see how there's any redeeming, as in how you could make excuses for her, because nearly all of them died I'm not saying you, but I mean, like, nearly all of them died from stomach cramps, stomach fevers is what they were called, and that's one of
fever is what we call it. It was, which I had to ask. Wikipedia says that it's typhoid, but it also says it's salmonella. Which is it?
Sorry, say that again.
When I looked up gastric fever on Wikipedia, it brought up typhoid fever. which is said is a disease caused by Salmonella enterica stereotype. Yeah,
it's an enteric fever caused by Salmonella bacteria, but Salmonella can cause a few different diseases. So typhoid is one of them.
So she's just giving them undercooked food, or no? Well, she obviously when she was giving them arsenic, they found that afterwards.
She was giving them arsenic, but the telltale sign of arsenic can be like the stomach cramp. You get tingling, numbness, stomach cramps. That's what it can present.
Looks like food poisoning.
Exactly. I would also say that there was also an American. I wouldn't know if you call her a serial killer, but her actions killed a lot of people, called Typhoid Mary. She used to own a general store, and she used some kind of paper or some kind of things to wrap up what she was selling. But they all had like whatever was going on, there was typhoid on this stuff, and she kind of knew.
So packed of it. Yeah,
because it's true. Like, so I mean, there's nothing to say that Mary Ann Cotton didn't have that knowledge. And was like, let them lie on this to sleep on. And
Red man greed. I think, is it not a thing of, this is a thing that was done to the Native Americans. And in South Park, the Native Americans do it to the South Park people. And it is, they give them disease during the war or a fight, whatever fighting was going on as a truce. They give them these blankets to keep warm and to give to their sick, or to give their elderly and their kids and their sick and all this stuff. And when they put the blankets over them, the blankets have actually been fucking, basically someone with fucking typhoid or whatever, been rubbing themselves all over it beforehand, and is passing on the disease to weaken the other side.
Exactly. Except Typhoid Mary was a cook. She was actually an Irish-American cook.
See?
That infected 51 people with 3 confirmed deaths.
Jesus Christ. And that does count as a serial killer. Like, 'cause I mean, I think it's the same with AIDS now as well. Like, people who go around intentionally infecting people with AIDS, it's counted as a murder, isn't it?
You see, yeah, I think there's two schools that there's some discrepancy though on whether she was intentionally doing it or not doing it, because some people say she was born with typhoid, that she got it during her mother's pregnancy, didn't know any better, and but then there's other. Now I haven't read enough into it to say this is what I believe. I know what I believe about Bathory, I know what I believe about Mary Ann Cotton, but Typhoid Mary, I'm on the fence.
But still, well, no, see, this is a hard one, because I was going to say, still, you think after 11 of your kids, and what is it, like 3 husbands?
4 husbands.
Yeah, but one of them survived.
Oh, he did, because she actually bigamously married the 4th one, so the 3rd one survived.
And she was cheating on one of them, and he got pissed off and killed. No, it wasn't. She was cheating on him. She was cheating on him with that the guy that she bigamously married. She's not technically, yeah. But at the same time, he wasn't paying attention, and she was spending all his money and like pissing away all his money. And eventually it dawned on him that his money was going missing, and then he went looking and looked into it and found out that she was off spending the money and fucking going crazy, and had this guy on the side and all this shit, and he booted her out.
Yeah.
And they were saying that it was him and his kid. One of his children were one of the surviving children. And it was a case of, well, they were lucky, like, you know, they were to get out, like. The only other surviving child was the child that she was pregnant with.
And she had to give birth to her in jail.
Yeah. I was like, because I even put it down here, I was like, for once, lucky number 13.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Lucky to be coming out at this point. But the thing is, like, it was almost a foolproof kind of plan, because it seems like everyone, because even in that story, when she's not killing him of gastric fever, there's people all over that story dying of gastric fucking fever.
No, yeah.
That have nothing to do with her. Well, that are in close proximity, but she wasn't to blame for.
No.
Do you know, it was just, she used it because it was so common. So, and the infant mortality seemed to be fucking huge. Because one of her husbands had just lost a child before they had hooked up.
Yeah.
And from, again, gastric fever, that was before they ever had any contact with Mary Ann Cotton, so it couldn't have been her to do it, like, you know?
Yeah. No,
I hope I'm saying all the right stuff here, because Amy keeps crunching up her face as I'm talking, and I'm afraid of my life now that I'm after giving her all bad information. No, I don't think
you're saying anything wrong. Will you stop? If I'm crunching up my face, I'm actively listening to you. Basically, the infant mortality rate in the United Kingdom around kind of like 1800 was 239. No, about 1800 was about 329, deaths per 1,000 children. So that's over a quarter of children.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That is a lot of kids. But I've heard that as well, that back in the day, not even just in wherever this happened. Where did this happen? England? America? England. Why is it that all these old ones seem to come from England?
I just haven't Googled any US
Amy's, well, what do they call it? An Anglophile?
I wouldn't call me I'm not an Anglophile. God.
When it comes to fucking English stuff, you just like gravitate to it. Especially old English stuff. Not new English stuff.
I don't like new, I don't like new English history. Old
Amy
English
gets
history.
to a point in history and it's just like, I'm done.
I drop off. When men stop being men and start fucking negotiating for land and bitching about land and stop actually like,
isn't all war just men
but they're actually the kings are getting you see that's the thing. The people that are supposed to be leaders of their countries, they might be like taking this land, but they're getting their hands dirty. Yeah, they're getting involved in the wars as well, as opposed to just go do this, just go do that. All I want there, so send the army off over there. It's like,
no, you're going way back.
way back. Yeah. Well, actually, no. The last king to be involved in would have been about. In a fight for his land would have been Richard III. So you're talking before the Tudors, yes, maybe the 1400s.
Way back.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Mary Ann Cotton. She's interesting. Gold digger type, I reckon. To the most part. Gold digger and convenience kind of thing. Once she got sick of him, it was kind of... I think, again, if she's a psychopath, I think it's very much like William Suff that we were talking about last week. Absolutely. Where we were saying, like, the kid would come and within a couple of days, the kid would just be an inconvenience and it would be like, fuck this. And I just couldn't have a connection with it because there was no emotion there to connect to it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she was picking up fucking insurance claims on all these people. So, I mean, there was also the financial side to it.
Absolutely. Just like Burk and
Hare. Brings me to that point. What's the difference, Amy? When I said that Burk and Hare were psychopaths that just like killing, you were like, no, it was all about the money. And this seems to be the exact same case. But...
Because it takes a certain type of psycho to kill your children as opposed to a lodger. It takes a certain kind of person to actually have that in you, to kill your own fucking flesh and blood. It is completely different to killing a lodger for money. I would know.
A psychopath is a psychopath.
No, infanticide is a completely different level.
You would think so, but most killers would, like serial killers, they wouldn't give a fuck. The only reason they wouldn't do it wouldn't be because they have any scruples about it. It would be more out of the convenience or the lack of convenience of it. To kill a child is going to bring on a lot more heat on their situation.
I don't mean just a child. I mean like
not, you know.
I mean your own flesh and blood, even like.
But again,
what I mean,
a lot of them would say that their own flesh and blood were really just a fucking mask for them. You know, we're just kind of people to make them look normal. That really, at the drop of a hat, they would have happily abandoned them just as quickly or killed them just as quickly. They were just convenient to them at the time. The true psychopaths only looking at what fits me now, like, you know. I mean, we see that in, I think it's safe to say it now because it should be upward in the Dexter series this week. Dexter, I mean, there's always this kind of thing of his real face isn't really shown to anybody bar the people he kills. Everybody else gets the hidden version of him, and the likes of Rita, his girlfriend, is there as a mask to the outside world to show that he is normal, to make him look normal. So she is not a threat, and she won't be threatened because he needs her to get by and keep on doing what he wants to do.
No, yeah, but I agree with you.
Whereas
but then when you look at like the length, when you look at the length of some of her marriages as well, some of them only lasted the length of like 5 or 6 months.
How did nobody pick up on that though? I mean, that's like because that's still again that's like Burk and Hare. That's another 16.
She moved around.
Was it another 16? No, it wasn't. It was 13. No, 12 and 3, 15.
15
at least.
Yeah, at least. So, I mean, like, she did.
And they couldn't prove all of them either because obviously a lot of them would have been too decomposed.
Well, that's exactly.
They did pull up some of the bodies, though, to have a look.
Yeah, they exhumed Charles Edward Cotton and they found the arsenic. I'm
surprised you were able to find it at that stage. Do you know, I would have thought that once they buried those bodies, it would just...
I have a funny feeling that I think it turns your tongue and your heart black. Or it's either arsenic or a different type of poison.
And would he have been the last one to die? One of the last ones to die. Is he the one that she was like,
he's sick, he needs to go to the workhouse. That's him. Yeah.
What the fuck is this workhouse thing about? Why
did they call it a workhouse if you're sending the sick people there?
I know we had it here in the case of the famine, and it was called a workhouse because you worked there, but they gave you the famine people places to stay and eat and stuff.
When you look at my grandfather's death cert, my great grandfather's death cert, he died in the workhouse, but he died in the workhouse because he was sick. You said it wasn't just for people to work; it was people that were sick as well to be looked after, who were infirm, who were kind of a bit of an inconvenience, like, and in the nicest way possible.
Basically, like what the mental asylums were in the 80s and 70s, or I suppose in
but
modern.
you didn't have the you didn't have to be anything wrong with your mind.
No, you just had to be broke.
Yeah, I mean, my great granddad, I think it was he died eventually of a stroke or something like that, or complications.
A lot of
but
times
he was
it was just lack of money.
Exactly.
You were desperate, and I mean, like the parents could fucking, in this case, send the child off to the workhouse to, number one, not have another mouth to feed. Number two, you know, they might even get a bit of money themselves out of getting them, sending the child there, would they?
No,
it's just to get the financial burden off them.
Before the mother and baby homes, a lot of unmarried pregnant women would have been sent there as well. That's how Oliver starts. Unmarried pregnant woman goes and has Oliver. And
they're supposed to be terrible. Like, obviously, it wasn't exactly. What kind of work do they do in these places, though?
I'm have a look in Ireland, because I know that, like, in Ireland there's probably like the roads to nowhere during the famine times, that they were like, oh yeah, we're going to feed you, we're going to clothe you, but you got to build this road, and you're like, where's the road going to? Nowhere, but you need to work, like, and it was like emaciated people
works out of principle,
working for the sake of it. Like, do you ever see like the old winding roads that like is really like a lot of the times they are right of ways, but sometimes they were the famine roads. There's a famine road in Thurles. There's the walls. Walls is another one. Build a wall there. It's a famine wall. And what's the famine wall for? Just fucking getting them out working.
Doing something.
Which would probably kill them anyway, because they were so fucking emaciated in the first place. But that's not the British now, but that was the British for you back then.
Yep. Unless you went Protestant, in which case they'd feed you and clothe you and make you feel great.
Yeah. I mean, like, in England they'd be known as poorhouses, but in Ireland they were workhouses. No.
All right. We come a bit into the future, and we'll talk a bit about Travis Walton.
Okay.
Now, earlier on I said to you that I had a bit of a connection here with Travis Walton and Annabelle the doll, and you were like, what's the connection? I didn't mean it in the sense of the stories were connected. But listening to both stories, obviously I learned a lot more new stuff in both cases.
Yes.
And then I had to start thinking about because I was just thinking about, we'll just say, for instance, we'll get into Travis Walton first, but just for instance, I'll bring up, like, when we were talking to the lad from Puka Vogue, and I brought up Ed and Lorraine Warren, and then I instantly shit in them, because I was like, well, this is what I've heard about Ed and Lorraine Warren. And then, fucking Eva, was it Eva? Yeah, Eva or Eva. I'm terrible with this. I'm sorry if you hear it. Eva or Eva. I just get confused between the two, and it's because my brother has a girlfriend.
Because your girlfriend,
he's had two girlfriends named Eva now. Yeah, I just called the new one Eva too.
They were definitely Eva.
Yeah. Anyway, pretty sure. But she was like, oh, I'll have to go in, I'll have to read up a bit more about that. I didn't know this about them. And then I kind of stopped and I was thinking this week when we were listening to stuff about Travis Walton, and then I was reading little bits more about the Warrens. No, I still don't think the Warrens were right, in the sense of I don't think what they were doing was completely truthful. But I was telling this girl what I had heard, but I didn't really know. I had only heard it from fucking sources online the same way. She had heard good stuff about them from sources online.
Yeah.
She doesn't know her sources, and I don't know my fucking sources, so both of us could be fucking wrong. We're just going off of other people's opinions and what opinions we took from that. And she was open-minded. I should have been a bit more open-minded about it and looked a bit more into it before I got into it. I still don't, like I said, I still don't think the Warrens I will get into it in a minute. I think there might have been more of a harmlessness to them. And it was more their religious leanings that made them seem over the top and crazy, and maybe they went a bit more over the top because of their religious leanings.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, I was surprised at the Travis Walton stuff. I was led to believe that this was a slam dunk. Most people believe Travis Walton. I had seen Fire in the Sky. I'd read a bit about it. And he is one of 3 episodes of Joe Rogan I've ever listened to. I have no problem with Joe Rogan. It's just Joe Rogan's guests vary wildly. And I don't want to listen to 2 fucking... I don't know. They can be a bit fucking pompous sometimes on it. You know what I mean? Like when you see Elon Musk on it and stuff like that. And I don't want to hear them talking about fucking hunting and how much meat they have in their fucking freezer. And, I listened to the episode with Dave Chappelle because Dave Chappelle's funny.
Yeah.
I listened to the episode with Travis Walton because I was interested in that. And that's the problem. He brings on these like UFO people, and instead of talking about their experience, he'll get into fucking physics and stuff with them. And it's like, Joe Rogan, I don't want to hear you talk about fucking physics. You're not a man I come to for physics. You're a man I come to for UFC and fucking jokes. Stick to that.
You tell him.
And even then, I'm not crazy about your jokes.
It's funny. I've never listened to him. The last time I saw him was that. Oh yeah.
This is the thing. Like Joe Rogan, you people don't realize this. Joe Rogan. When I first saw Joe Rogan,
saying it sounds very familiar. That Joe Rogan.
I thought he was a retired MMA guy. Some MMA. It was usually in wrestling. The announcers, if they look like the other wrestlers, are former wrestlers who got injured and are forced to go to commentary.
Yeah.
You know the difference. There's like the JR commentator who is a commentator who is started his career as a commentator, has always been a commentator, like JR, Tony Schiavone, guys like that. And you got guys like Taz, King, all these guys who were wrestlers first. And I always just thought, I took it that Joe Rogan was an ex-MMA guy. And next thing I'm sitting there watching the Chappelle show and I'm like, is that fucking Joe Rogan with hair? And I'm like, there he is. Yeah. And then we're watching a sitcom he was on lately. What's it called again?
Something about the radio, isn't it? No, it's not.
It's not a great fucking sitcom.
It's only alright.
It's alright. I thought it'd be better because Phil Hartman's in it as well.
Was he not on TLR on MTV as well?
No.
Who am I thinking of?
Carson Daly.
Carson Daly.
He was Fear Factory. It was Joe Rogan's claim to fame.
Okay,
but he was a stand-up comedian. He still is a stand-up comedian, apparently. I've never really heard his comedy, and he just doesn't strike me as a very funny
I've seen him
man.
Give out to somebody for stealing his jokes on stage. Or was that the other way around? No, maybe it was him.
He's a good interviewer. I'll give him that much. I just think sometimes they waffle on about shit that
they don't really know.
The everyday person isn't going to really care about.
What if we do that and we don't realise?
Well, most people know that we're going to be talking about horror or true crime or ghosts or something, you know, and we kind of stay on brand with that. Even with, I mean, like, I even thought that when you started playing Bones, I was like, are we going down a completely different avenue here? But you've managed to make everything horrific. So
horrific, thank you.
I fucking, fucked up ways people die. I mean, this week we did a history podcast about fucking vampires and zombies. So, I mean, you managed to keep it on brand. But that's what I'm saying. The Travis Walton one is the one I listened to. And he seemed like an honest enough guy.
Okay.
And all the stuff that I had been fed for so long from his story was they had past lie detectors. 6 guys were all claiming the same thing, never changed their story. They were supposed to be honest people, coming from honest backgrounds. And then I'm watching this stuff, or listening to you last night, and it's like, no, they're all fucking smackheads who love aliens and talk about nothing but aliens, and their contract was about to cost them huge amounts of money, and this was very conveniently timed and placed, and happened directly after the Betty and Barney. No, I will say, this happened a week after the Betty and Barney Hill featured on the TV.
A week after it featured.
And on TV. When Betty and Barney Hill happened, the claim was this happened directly the night after Betty and Barney Hill watched the TV show where the fucking there was an alien plane. It was like, so where does this happen? Are you just going to keep blaming TV? See? So there is that side of it too.
Yeah.
Travis, I get confused mainly because I can't see how anybody could lie for that length of time.
He seemed very sure of himself. When I saw him on TV today, when he was talking about it, very sure of himself.
And he claims that he was drug tested and came out clean in that documentary. And he claims that he passed all those lie detector tests, even though what we read and what I've read in other places, that he was holding his breath and he was manipulating it. And they're supposed to be easy enough to manipulate if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I've read that.
That's why you can't use them in court.
Oh, can you not use them in court?
No. Lie detectors don't. Polygraph tests don't hold up in court.
I did not know that. I'm sorry.
It's more of a kind of, I think in America when they're used, it's more of a kind of psycho tactic. Kind of as in,
let's see if it's wet.
You got a dummy here who doesn't know any better, and it's like, well, I'll take a polygraph, you know, and it's like hook them up. And then at least if they fail, you know you're on the right track and you have the guy, you just need to find a little more evidence now.
Yeah.
So that's why your lawyer would say it's a bad idea unless you were definite. Lawyers would suggest against it anyway because they're so unreliable that it could make you look guilty.
You fuck up, like. And
then they're going to focus all their energy on nailing you and you're not going to get away with it anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a messy kind of business. So I don't know when it comes to that. You read that his mother and brothers and sisters were all indifferent about his...
Very nonchalant. Like, the mother was like, well, sure, these things happen.
The documentary, his friend or brother, I can't remember, who was involved, one of the logging crew, or it was his brother, said that the mother was hysterical, telling the brothers about what was going on. That she was in hysterics about the fact that Travis was gone. But I don't know, that Wikipedia page was very negative, and that caught me off guard.
It was very, very negative. You make it wonder who wrote it. Like, I thought it was weird, all right, the mother would be like that. But then...
And the whole... Like, number one, I didn't think the mother would have the ability to call off a search for a body. I don't think that's how it works. So that made me question as well.
Making the cops stand down for the night.
The mother's like, stand down, everybody, it's okay. Travis will be home soon. Then the brother's coming up going, no. Get the fuck back out there and start looking. And then she calls off the second time, and it's like, hang on, that doesn't sound right. No. So there's a lot. I mean, again, look, it's alien stuff, and it's so hard to fucking follow and so hard to find, but both sides seem so fucking sure. Like I said,
it's hard to know.
Again, for me, I just feel like six. Now I know out of the 6 people, 3 of them are dead.
Yeah.
But they've managed to keep the same story going for so long. I feel like if it was me, right? Mm-hmm. And I got far enough to get us out of the contract.
Okay.
Make enough money, a little bit of money out of a book and a movie.
Yeah.
I would then ride off into the sunset and quietly live out my life without mentioning it ever again. As little as possible so that there could be no fuck-ups. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, yeah.
Whereas this guy is the touring fucking Travis Walton fucking experience. Do you know, this guy is constantly on lectures and talking about it and stuff. And I can see then I know there's a difference, kind of, there's this greed as well where he sees money and there's more money coming in because he's doing all this stuff. Because he's on Joe Rogan, he's getting paid for that, I'm sure, and he's fucking, you know, I understand that side of things, but I think, me personally, I'd just be like, it's the same reason I keep saying when people say, oh, Tupac isn't dead, it's like, well, Tupac is dead, because Tupac is from the rap world, and I don't know if you ever experienced the rap world in the 90s, but those fuckers couldn't stay friends for more than a fucking month or two. They'd be best friends, then they'd hate each other. So rappers would not help but fucking snitch each other out in songs. So, I mean, it's like, if he had faked his own death, we would have all found out about it as soon as he fell out with Suge Knight. You know? And then he would have fallen because everyone falls out with Suge Knight. So, it's kind of the same kind of thought process here of, and that did happen to them in one scenario, where Travis did fall out with one of the loggers, and they did come out and they were like, well, Travis is in this for himself, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore, and I'll tell you it was all fake. And then him and Travis made up and he came back out and he said, well, I was just saying that because I was mad at Travis. Okay. So they muddied their own waters there, which kind of makes it hard to tell what's real and what's not. And then you look at, like, the way it was discussed, it was set up with the kind of the light tower thing. So to make it look like it was coming. But like you said then as well, is like you're talking about, even if it is 2 of them pulling the prank and the rest of them actually believe they saw an alien thing, it's like, how do these guys who were working here the whole time not know they're going down the wrong roads? Exactly.
That's the one that got to me the most. It was like,
not know that this is already here. If the Travis and them knew that it was here, surely they'd all know that it was there.
It seemed very far-fetched that way.
But
unless he drugged them all.
Well, see, they weren't drugged. And they all passed.
I know they weren't drugged.
Questioned and all, passed, because the assumption was that they'd murdered Travis and made up the abduction story.
Okay.
That was the original thought. Like, they were being questioned, because that was the problem with the original polygraph.
Okay.
Was because they said that they cleared that they actually all passed the original polygraph. But ufologists and people into all that stuff and skeptics have come back and said yes, but they were asked 5 questions. 4 of them were different ways of asking, have you harmed Travis? And the last one was, did you see something strange? They were never asked, did you see a UFO? Did you see it? Yeah. So it was like, did you see something strange? And they responded yes. And only 1 out of the 6, so there was 6 outside of Travis. Okay. And 5 of them passed and 1 of them was inconclusive.
Okay.
So it wasn't even a fade. So I don't know. Again, it's
It's a very hard, like, I mean, I think a lot of alien ones are very, and same with paranormal, they're hard to call. Like, you want to see the truth in them sometimes, but I mean, it's very...
Yeah, I know they went up there with a Geiger counter and all that, and I don't know what the results of that were, because I, again, would assume...
That's radiation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would assume that, like I said to you about crop circles last week, that if something landed there would be some sort of singe marks or some sign of propelling away or taking off away from the area.
Yeah.
And especially in a place where they were logging and all this stuff, you're talking about nothing but forestry. There's bound to be some sort of mark or some sign that there was something there beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
No, apparently, to kind of link it back to that TV show they saw, in the Betty and Barney Hill TV show, apparently, like, it shows Barney Hill walking up and walking under the light and then looking up and then being, as they say in Ghosts, sucked off. Or what's the word for again? The tractor beam went on.
Oh yeah.
And apparently that's exactly how Travis was, that he jumped out of that car, ran towards it, because he had always said, I've heard him say this, he said, because I had always said, remember, we are UFO nuts. And we had always said if we had the opportunity, we would run at the UFO and not run away from it.
Okay.
So he ran straight to the light, and that's what they were claiming. He ran to the light, and then they saw him beginning to be lifted up into the spaceship. And the movie, it is kind of a bit scary to see.
Is that the one where he's kind of crawling around inside in the UFO, kind of like in this womb, kind of?
Pretty much, yeah. There's all these different, there's kind of greys are there, but they're kind of blurry, and then there's guys in kind of hazmat suit kind of thing. But there is, because that's the thing, there's Nordic aliens and greys and shit. Yeah. So apparently, like, he wakes up, he sees the greys, and he freaks out a bit. And then what he said looked like a human came in, but they were wearing kind of a hazmat suit, and they gave him something, I think, to calm him down or something. And then they kind of guided him out. And that's when he met another human one, but it was the Nordic, the tall blondes, the Nordic aliens. So they're called Nordic aliens because they look like fucking Norwegians. Big, tall, blonde, fucking Viking-looking motherfuckers. But not really, because they're not rough-looking. I always picture the Nordics as being more like... elves from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
you know, like fucking Orlando Bloom or something like that. But and apparently then I don't know exactly what he says happened. I think he says he blacked out after that and woke up walking down the side of the road 5 days later. But he was missing for 5 days.
Missing 5 days.
But they did make the point as well that tower with the light on it also had room inside it for him to be hiding out for 5 days if he really wanted to.
Yeah.
And it was not checked in those 5 days.
Wow.
So I don't know. I just think he looks like an honest enough guy. I don't think what he's done has caused any harm. Do you know, in the sense of I don't think it hurt anybody.
It costs a lot of resources.
Yeah, but it's an interesting and fun story. So who's Travis really hurting? Like, you know?
That's true.
But I mean, right. I mean, if nothing else, it brings it to the forefront. It makes it normal to talk, because they were talking about that on the documentary, and you'll have to wonder when this Wikipedia page was written. Yeah. Was it written years ago or was it written recently? Because let's face it, over the last 10 years, the perception of aliens has completely changed.
It has.
Like, as little as 10 years ago, you would still be looked at as a little bit fucking nuts for saying you believed in aliens. Or believed in UFOs.
And now everybody's like, well, obviously there's aliens.
And now it's like, well, you're arrogant to think that we're the only people or the only living beings in this universe.
Absolutely.
And now fucking governments all over the world are coming out saying, UFOs, yep. Here's some videos.
Yep.
We don't know what they are.
Absolutely.
We're not saying they're aliens, but they're definitely unidentified flying objects.
They're definitely not
Actually,
human.
no, they're not. They're unidentified aerial phenomenon.
UAPs. No, UAPs.
So they didn't really admit UFOs. They changed the name so they didn't have to fucking say they were wrong all along. But so yeah, that was one case where it was something I was dead set on saying, yeah, seems like a surefire fucking story. It turns out to be a little more hazier than it was. I should have done more research and looked into it a bit further and seen that there's a bit more to it. Because again, for people who don't know, these guys had a logging contract from the government. They had to clear a certain amount of space or a certain amount of trees out of this place before a certain date. If they didn't hit the date, they had gotten an extension on that date. And if they didn't get it done, I think it was coming up to October. And if they hadn't had it done by October, they would be fined a couple of grand.
Substantial
and
amount.
they were taken out. They would be out of the running for bidding on government contracts again for a certain period of time, which would be a huge loss to them.
Exactly.
So there was a clause in their contract, an act of God clause, where if something outside of their circumstances happened, something they couldn't control happened, then they would be given an extension, they'd be given some leniency and they'd get away with it. And about a week before their due date was up and with absolutely no hope of hitting the target, this is when the UFO thing happens. So that's why people are a bit skeptical about it.
Yeah.
Because of the timing and because of the fact that the Walton family were known for being UFO nuts and were known for being big pranksters, apparently. So this wasn't uncommon for them to do stuff like this. So again, who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
You know, the only people who really fucking know what happened that night is Travis and the 6 guys that were there with him.
Exactly.
And, you know, unless so far all 6 of them have said this is what we saw and they've stuck to it, except for one who turned on him at one point.
But then he
we're not going to know. It's impossible to know. And let's fucking face it. And this is the truth. This is coming from 2 people who talk about this on a weekly fucking basis. And it's the same thing with aliens as it is that I said about ghosts. Even us who want to believe in it, deep down, you can't really believe in something until you see it properly.
No.
See it solidly.
Yeah.
Do you know? I mean, that's why they call religion faith, because you're supposed to blindly follow something you can't see.
Yeah.
And when it comes to, I mean, like, I love the idea of aliens, but I mean, same way that I say it's arrogant for me to say that we're the only living fucking things, there is a tiny, tiny possibility that we are. I mean, you know, because I have no proof that we are. There's no proof that we're not.
Maybe we're in the universe where we are the only people. Maybe in the next universe over, we're not. Like.
But I was saying, I don't know for sure. I can't tell you for sure. So I'm kind of taking on faith that they are out there, and it's kind of the same. So, like, when it comes to aliens and ghosts, no matter who came in, my brother could come in here right now and tell me, Josh, I just saw a ghost or I just saw an alien. And even if we fucking said, oh yeah, tell us all about it,
well,
deep down we'd be like, he's bullshit. He must have seen something else.
They like bring me over and we find the completely logical reason that you just think you saw.
Well, it was like your grandmother, wasn't it? Was it your grandmother?
My grandmother
with the post box?
She came home from a dance one night, and I think they were in the car. They were coming home on a country road, and they were like, "Oh my god, we saw a little green man!" They were freaking out, all of them. So I think it was her dad said we'd go back so the next day, and it turned out to be our post box over here. For anybody that's not Irish, they're green, like, and it turned out to be a post box inside the road.
A green man.
Yeah.
But and again, I said, look. Whereas the Travis Walton thing, I kind of got flipped on its head. Kind of in a little way, the next subject, and that's Annabelle the doll, which kind of tosses really, we're going to be talking about the Warrens. And that kind of gets flipped on its head here a little bit as well for me, because whereas from what I had read about him, I saw him as full-blown, fucking pricks trying to benefit and make money off of this and spread their religious rhetoric.
Believe, though.
That seems to be what it is. It doesn't seem to be any bad in them. It just, we'll go back and forth on that because we're going to have a look at the Warrens now.
Yeah, absolutely.
1 second. All right, so like I said with the Warrens, this is again, I've said it already. When Puka Vogue were here and I brought up the Warrens, I shot all of them. I attacked it instantly because I knew it was a question I was going to ask to see what their reaction was, what kind of investigators they were. Because in my mind, the Warrens were absolute frauds, right? But again, I made that decision based on sources that I don't know. I don't know the people who have come out and said stuff against the Warrens. I don't know. They're just words on a page.
You don't know whether or not they're biased.
So I was jumping and saying all these things about the Warrens, whereas when they started off, they were like, well, we believe in these stories and all this stuff. And I just kind of jumped in and I was like, well, this is what I've read. And I went through all the bad stuff that I've read. And then today I was watching a documentary about them and I was reading about them. And a lot of people who did work with him had positive stuff to say about him. And I thought, well, maybe, again, in this case, this could be something. And this is something I have noticed with me. And I will make a point out of it in a few minutes. But I'm very quick because of... And I will point out, when it comes to Christians and Catholics and stuff like that, I have no problem with anybody on the ground floor here. Do you know, if you're just a regular ass Christian or Catholic or whatever, you're not making policy decisions. I do kind of find it hard in modern day looking back at everything that the religions, and not just Christianity. I mean, at the moment, the Jewish and the Muslims are at war with each other, and that's a religious war. Like, and most war is religious. But when you start looking, since we were brought up in the Catholic faith, and you start analysing it, and you start seeing all the stuff they're involved with in this country alone. And it's not the lower level fucking Catholic people, but the people in charge, the people in the infrastructure of Christianity, of Catholics. There's an issue there because, you know, they were doing some terrible, terrible, terrible shit, and the higher ups are getting a lot of money. I mean, that's, you know, why the Protestants don't believe in the Pope is because of all the iconography, the gold, the jewels, the big chair, and all that shit. No, and I know what you're going to say. The new Pope got rid of all that shit.
I wasn't going to say it.
You say it every time I say this.
I was thinking it. Francis did get rid of it.
But I would say that, like, when it came to the Warrens, I still think they embellished their stories.
I think they embellished their stories, but I also think they truly believed in what they were doing.
Yes. But I think that their religious beliefs had a lot of... And that's the thing as well, like, I give out about Ed Warren for being so religiously forward, but I'm the exact same. It's just a different religion.
Exactly.
And I give out shit about him doing it. It's like... But when I heard him say it himself today, it was like... he's like, well, people go on to me about this being a religious thing. He was like, well, it is a fucking religious thing to me. I'm Catholic. I believe in Catholic. And if you look at the Bible, it has all these paranormal words in it. And he starts showing all the words that are in there that point to, like, ghost, spirit, blah, blah. He's like, so, I mean, possession, demonic possession, all that. And he's like, he believes that people just kind of bury their head when it comes to this and are skeptic because of not wanting to believe in the devil and all. And he said he had so many priests that he knew that didn't believe in the devil and all this, but he firmly believes in the devil and demons.
But as a priest, are you not supposed to believe in the fucking devil?
Yeah, but what he's saying is that was the point he was making. He was like, I even know priests that don't really truly believe in the devil. Like, you know? Now, to be fair to them, Ed did say that, like, the only people he had no real interest in talking to was the skeptical atheists. He said they refuse to look at it as a spiritual thing and have to look at it completely scientific. And because of their religious beliefs, they didn't believe that you could look at this scientifically. Now, I would argue that all the apparatuses that go along with investigations are very scientific because you're working off of radio waves and frequencies and stuff like that. But he didn't like talking to them. They don't kind of, you know what I'm talking about, like the kind of
people that will not listen to, but they've no interest in hearing anything but their own opinion.
They've made up their mind already. Yeah. They don't believe, and no amount of evidence is going to prove otherwise to them. And
they can't even hold a proper conversation about it, like, basically.
They don't have any interest in holding a conversation. They just see you as being a fool, and that's it. And how could you believe in such foolish, childish things, like, you know, this mystical, magical stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, there is a lot against the Warrens as well. Absolutely. That we have kind of dug up that isn't particularly good. I mean, I will say as well, the guys who came out and said that Ed, the authors of the book, they came out and said that Ed told them to embellish the stories a little bit, like, to make more money out of them, to make the stories scarier. None of them came out until Ed had died.
Okay.
They all stayed in the background until Ed was dead. Now, the documentary made it out as if Ed's willpower kind of, or his dominance or whatever, or his power, he was able to hold them off of doing this. But and the other problems is that it seems to, outside of the evidence that the Warrens put in front of you, and I use the word evidence loosely because there is no sources. They never have any sources. You can never find the witnesses. So, like,
same with the Annabelle doll.
This is where Annabelle comes in a major way for us. Yeah. Is Annabelle has a badass backstory.
But nobody to fucking corroborate it.
But the nurses who originally had Annabelle, we don't know who they are. The priest who apparently nearly crashed his car when he saw Annabelle in the rear view mirror on his way home after he threw Annabelle around the room saying it was bullshit, he can't be found. The records of a man who slagged off Annabelle and then was in a motorcycle crash
And
with
died,
his
and
girlfriend. The girlfriend
yeah,
survived.
Yeah.
They can't be found to be verified. So there's this problem where you got to take the Warrens' word for it. And then I read this article, I think we were reading, or there was another bit I found about him, and it was these guys who basically went to the Warrens. They were paranormal investigators in a way, but skeptical. And they wanted to go there and they wanted to find evidence.
Yeah.
They wanted something, and then they got onto the Warrens, and the Warrens were promised this hardcore evidence. And then they said they got there, and they said while they don't think the Warrens were doing anything in a malicious way, they seemed like very nice people and very friendly people.
Yeah.
That their evidence was weak.
Okay.
That it was only their word against everybody else's, and that it was kind of a thing of you had to have faith in the Warrens to believe this, you know? And their stories. And I mean, like, the Annabelle story gets wild, like, when you hear the Warrens tell it, because apparently she was floating around the fucking house and everything when they brought her home the first time.
That in my head with the Raggedy Ann doll seems kind of, like, comical with her zooming around the air, like.
I think it was more frightening that it's a Raggedy Ann doll than that person.
Because it's so mundane, because it's so innocent looking. I mean, people had Raggedy Ann dolls here. I remember Raggedy Ann dolls.
It's so common that's why BTK is seen as a scary serial killer.
Because he was just so mundane, boring,
That had decided.
That's why Wednesday Addams in, I don't know which movie it is, but they dress up for Halloween. She comes down, they're like, "What are you?" And she's like, "I'm a serial killer because I could be anybody." But it's perfect, like it's true, like.
But so that's the thing with the Warrens. Like, it's really fucking hard to tell. Like with Travis, it's hard to find because you're trusting these people. There's no other witness and there's no evidence, and that's the problem with all these cases. There's never any evidence.
Yeah.
No, they will claim that they have countless witnesses. I mean, see, again, this is where things get really messed up and really muddled up with the Warrens. Because you have some people saying, yeah, we saw all this stuff with the Warrens. And then you had other people saying, the Warrens were only there for half. Like in Amityville, that's supposed to be their big case. And I've read it in multiple sources saying they were only there for a day.
That's all.
Enfield, which we covered and was the fucking story behind, a loosely based version of the Enfield thing happened in The Conjuring 2. I have to watch The Conjuring 2 again. I can't remember
Vaguely,
but I don't remember it being very Enfieldy.
The nun was in it. Is that where she
that's
came
where
from?
She came about, yeah. But from what I've read, in that case, they turned up unannounced. No one there knew who they were when they got there until Ed started talking. And not long afterwards, they were asked to leave.
So was it a thing of course we're going, everybody knows who we are?
Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
That's kind of the way it was looked at.
Marto.
No, again, you're going up. But at the same time, how much of that was territory based? Because you could see that Morris Gross and your man, was he Love Child or something like that? Or Love something or other? No, Playfield.
Why would it be territory based if they were in Enfield was UK?
Because the two of them were territorial as it was, because the Warrens are coming in stealing their story. The famous American parapsychologists are coming in nicking our fucking tail, you know? And taking the thunder, like, because obviously these people who were involved with Amityville and all these other hauntings, they're the ones that are going to be focused on it. And when the movie was fucking made, who's in the movie? Is it fucking Morris Gross? Is it fucking Playfield? Or is it the Warrens? Do you know?
It's the Warrens.
Gross got a made-for-TV fucking miniseries on UK Gold. Do you know?
Oh, I must watch that. We did watch it. We watched it. We watched it. Sorry, I watched it once.
So that's where things... And then there is also the added wrinkle of Ed apparently having an affair that went on for 45 years, but started when the girl was 15. The girl being... Here, let me find here. So, Judith Penny claimed that she had a 40-year sexual relationship with Ed.
40 years is much better than 70 years. Fucking hell.
Started when she was 15. According to Penny, when she became pregnant, Lorraine persuaded her to have an abortion because the birth of the child would become a public scandal and could ruin the Warrens' business. An abortion could always also become a public scandal because you're supposed to be a hardcore Catholic.
I would say if she came to me, if I was that girl, I'm not condoning any of this, by the way, she's a 15-year-old girl, but if Lorraine Warren car and came to me and she gave me her business as a reason to fucking have an abortion, you can 100% be certain I'm having that fucking child.
Well, I would assume they paid her off. This lady also claims that she saw physical abuse between Ed and Lorraine around the house. And Lorraine had it written into her contract for the Conjuring film
physical
series.
Abuse which way? Because I was wondering that earlier. Was it Ed against Lorraine? Okay.
But she did have it written into her contract that for the Conjuring film series that her and Ed could not be portrayed to be having sex with each other, engaging in extramarital affairs, or engaging in crimes like sex with a minor. Now, to
I
be
understand
honest,
the last two.
if you were going to make a movie about me, I would not want you to portray me as a fucking paedophile either. Now, thankfully, my life story doesn't
like
call
you're
out
clean,
for
like.
it. So I'm safe.
But like, well, yeah, it's very suspicious that you fucking have that written in.
Well, yeah, the fact that you'd have that there at all, like, you know, so is there a bit of validity to it? I don't know.
But then the first term, was she so certain that they were going to, I mean, like, it wasn't going to be her naked. It wasn't going to be, do you know that kind of the first that they couldn't even show that them. Is that because of their religion?
Catholic, I would assume. Yeah, I would assume so that they didn't want to sully their name or, you know, sex up their image.
They have children. We all know they're not.
They have one child.
Still means.
Yeah, but it's not so much of a case of Lorraine being a fucking virgin and all that. They were married. They were allowed to have sex. It was more of a thing of it being private and something between man and wife behind closed doors, you know?
I get it. It still seems like an odd thing.
Think your nan and granddad, like, you know, that's kind of the age group they're coming from, like, you know.
My nan and granddad at 14.
But, I don't know. All I'm saying is I still don't think they were very truthful. I still don't, but I think the same as what I said with Travis Walton, was there much harm in it? Because they weren't charging these people. So, like, the way we
Can you charge somebody? Could you? I mean, like legally, you can't prove if he was fucking taken or if he wasn't taken. Like, you know, like, so could he have been charged? Like, the guard, the cops couldn't have said, "Oh, hang on now, there is 100% no such thing as aliens."
But it's not a legal thing. The point is, do you remember when, like, Pukavo came here and PJ said, "Oh, well, we're a non-profit fucking company. You make a donation to the building and to the maintenance of the building that we're staying in, but I don't actually pocket any money myself, and that's to prove that I am not in it for the money. I'm not here."
I thought you meant charged as in legally charged.
No, so I mean, like, so when they went to do these paranormal investigations at people's houses, they weren't taking money.
They weren't taking money, yeah.
How
did they make them? And that was from book sales and museum.
Selling the rights to their fucking story for movies and the museum.
How early
museum
did they
was
start
$13 a head.
Huh? How early on in their career did they start selling rights to movies and books and stuff?
But see,
like that?
This is the thing. I read now. I don't know. Again, I don't know how true this is, but what I read was they're actually limited with what they could talk about in the Conjuring film series because Ed and Lorraine had sold their rights previously to another fucking film studio years and years and years ago.
Did your rights not run out? No.
I don't know. Yeah, they do, but I don't know what way it works. What were the stories? And that's why Amityville hasn't been redone with the Warrens. It's a brief part of the start of the second one.
It is, yeah, I remember.
But it's kept out of it in the large part because they didn't have the rights to it, you know? And apparently that's the problem with Ed and Lorraine's bigger story, that there is actually bigger stories there that they have, but they had sold those stories already to somebody else. Now, I don't know why those other people who own that haven't cashed in on the whole Ed and Lorraine buzz when that was happening in The Conjuring and make those fucking movies. It's beyond me.
Because are people going to accept anybody other than Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga at the moment?
Yeah.
Do you know, you've looking at that? Like,
and The Haunting in Connecticut, I mean, is their story. It seems to be actually one that they were very much involved in. Mm-hmm. And that movie was made, and they're not in that movie.
They're not.
But I don't know if anyone's really named by the name of that.
I've seen it once. I've seen people not enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I kind of enjoy every movie. I feel like whenever I open my mouth about it. But I don't remember them being mentioned in it.
I don't think they are. Yeah. I looked at the cast list and there was none.
Mad.
Yeah, The Haunting in Connecticut. This Schneidker House. We did watch another version of this, I think.
The guy from... I know the guy. No, not no.
The dude from fucking... He was in
Jennifer's Body, The Walking Dead. No. Oh, who am I thinking of?
No, I know who you're thinking of. But I'm talking about the version of it we saw, the haunted, or haunted. It was
which guy from the guy with one arm?
Dale. Do you remember he had the camper van?
Ah,
he was
Dale.
in when we watched that haunting. He was in that. I think that might be that story too. I'm not 100% sure. So I don't know. Again, like I said, I mean, it was a New England Skeptical Society that went around to their place and found it. Yeah, at best, as tellers of meaningless ghost stories, and at worst, dangerous frauds is what they were called. $13 for the tour. They watched videos and looked at the best evidence the Warrens had. Their conclusion was that it was Blarney, is what they called it. They found common errors with flash photography and nothing evil in the artifacts that the Warrens had collected.
Common errors with flash photography.
Basically, a lot of people say that their pictures are doctored. So that a lot of their evidence is doctored and worked around. Like, I mean, there's that famous picture from Amityville of the kid looking out the door. Apparently, like, one of the fucking crew members had their kid on the fucking side of the door. Like, so it was most likely that kid. So, and they were known for embellishing those kind of sides things. No, I said to you as well, they might have been doing it in the most innocent way of they were just trying to recruit to the Jesus fucking army, like, you know.
It's still disappointing, though. It's not that I ever took it as concrete evidence. I mean, like, even watching the first Conjuring, like, you know, I was like, it can't be, you know, there must have been some truth to it, but I don't think it was this bad, but it makes for a really good fucking movie. But, like, still, it's...
But see, so I was trying to work that out in my own head. Because, you know, when we were talking again, going back to Puka Vogue and Park, they're the only paranormal investigators we've ever met. And I asked them, I was like, the stuff we see in the movies, does that shit happen? You ever feel, is there ever anything that crazy? And he straight up replied, he was like, no. He was like, number one, he was like, first night in an investigation, you might get fucking nothing.
Yeah.
It was like, it takes repeated visits and building it up and building it up.
Building a rapport with your ghost.
But then we've seen stuff like on Paranormal Cotton Camera, and there's shit being thrown around the fucking room. And I'm like, whew, I couldn't handle that much. I mean,
like even that one in Cork in the time when the schools with the lockers, that's a lot. Like, I mean, yeah.
So, I mean, how do you explain that? I don't know. That's why it's all fucking, I suppose, the way it is. We're never going to know. I mean, Ed Warren did claim that he had proven the existence of ghosts in the court of law in America. So technically, he had proven the existence of ghosts through that. Because he was able to get
The devil made me do it?
No, that wasn't the case. It was another case.
Oh.
There was that case, but there was another case. I can't remember the case off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But there was something in there. It was a smaller case. It wasn't as bad as The Devil Made Me Do It. But they got the person off. And whereas Ed kind of played it up as more of, well, I proved that because of the existence of ghosts, this person did what they did or didn't do what they did or whatever the fucking reason was. Whereas it was actually more of a case of because of the hysteria caused by this person's beliefs, they weren't really in sound mind, a body and mind. You know?
Yeah, I know.
It's like if a group of people, mass hysteria, if a group of people believe something, you can't really charge those group of people for that issue. It was mass hysteria. That's what it is. It's hysteria.
So how does it work if there's like a lynch mob? Because these people really believe that this person was like a monster in disguise or something, like a fairy. Like back here, like when the bridges from Carmel.
I would assume your best bet there to look at how they would deal with situations like
is
that.
The person that actually did the killing?
No. Look at how they charged in America for the January riots of the storming the Capitol. Because that would have been mass hysteria.
Yeah.
But they obviously would not have the ability to charge everybody. Now, obviously...
Is that why they're trying... I mean, like, Donald Trump, like...
You have the kind of upside of modern day where they were able to go through cameras and go, that guy, he's doing something bad. Yeah. That guy over there is doing something bad. That guy over there is doing something bad. That person's just walking on through.
That guy's just being an idiot with horns, so we're going to charge him for that anyway.
He's going to jail.
Was there a guy that pooped on the desk? There wasn't there? Why do I feel like that was in Pelosi's office?
Yeah. Her laptop got robbed or something like that. And there were pictures of them taking behind the desk and stuff like that. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if I made up that shit on the desk.
I just think the cringiest thing I saw from that day was the guy with the horns.
That pissed me off.
I understand that. I can understand why.
Because they were all because that's the thing, like where people get confused between American Viking pagan, I suppose you'd call it, Nordic pagan, and European paganism. Whereas European paganism is a real religion. The one that the racists over it, not all of them, I mean, there's some Americans who follow the more European style of it, but the racists who have adopted Odinism as their fucking way need to realise it's a religion.
And you're not supposed to be an angry dickhead.
You do not stop halfway through your riot to say a Christian prayer.
Well, no, but there's that, but
stop,
I mean, like,
and this motherfucker in the fucking big headgear, Viking headgear, stops to lead a Christian prayer.
Ridiculous.
I was like, what the fuck are you doing, you idiot? That was what I thought was his biggest defense of the day. So, I mean, I'm not American. I don't give a shit where they went. You know? But, yeah, I don't know. And I mean, look, it's mass hysteria. So I would say, I don't know, what's your opinion? Do you think they were doing any harm?
I don't think they were. Exactly like I said. I think that it was embellished, but I 100% believe that those people 100% truly believed in what they were doing was real, was for good.
Well, that's another thing. One last thing before we get out of here, because
I don't think they were evil people. I don't think they were bad people. I think they had faith in what they were doing. I think that they did.
I was just about to ask the question.
Exploit it.
Yeah. But that's what that's not what I was going to ask. I do think the same thing. I think they probably believed in what they were doing, and they just stretched the truth a little bit to sort their what's the word I'm looking for? Fuck me, I hate when this happens. I could be talking on this microphone. As soon as I pause this microphone, every word I'm thinking of, I want to think of, will flow out of my mouth with absolute
come here. Remember that sentence last night? I could rattle off, but couldn't as soon as,
Basically, the means met the end. They had
to make ends meet?
No. Where doesn't matter. They were doing it to fucking justify what they were trying. Yeah,
means to an end.
Exactly. They were trying to fucking basically recruit people in, make them believe, so they had to stretch their truth a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
yes,
because again, I'm trying to play both sides. Because, like I say, the big thing I'm learning here today is that you can't have double standards.
No.
When we were looking at Burk and Hare, and we were looking at Marianne Cotton, we made the points of both killed for similar reasons, and what made one a psychopath or more of a psychopath overnight. Yeah, we disagree. But the same here is like I can't look at Travis Walton's Wikipedia page and say, that's being harsh, and believe all the nice stuff I've heard Travis Walton say about himself, and then turn around and read Ed and Lorraine's Wikipedia page and say, that is sufficiently harsh enough. And Ed Warren is full of shit just because he's a Catholic. That's not how it works. You gotta fucking look at both. They both work the same way. Those Wikipedia pages could be written by anybody. The shit I read is said by people who
Travis's Wikipedia page does feel, though, very biased. Very biased. Yeah, it's...
But when I actually look at the Warrens and I weigh up how many people I have heard talking shit about them over how many people I've heard talking positively about them, it actually weighs out pretty level. I have probably heard just as many people talk positively about them as I've heard talk negatively about them.
The one thing that does, do you know, I can't remember, is it the Devil's Road? Is that in Michigan? That case? Devil's Street? What swung it in their favour for me with that one was city engineers, city officials saying,
cops and
we saw this happen. We saw the firefighters saying chairs had moved. There were city engineers saying the fringes were moving towards them.
Which is what I always said, it tied me in with Enfield. Yeah. But then I started to feel a bit weird about Enfield because it turned out The Exorcist, it was only out a couple of years at that stage.
And that voice is very, very, very...
So you don't know.
No.
And there's all these factors going in. But I will leave on this one last thing. To prove that she was clairvoyant, Lorraine Warren actually had an official test done and passed. Wow. They call her, they say that there's 2 different types.
Okay.
One is the ones that go, like in Chucky last day, where your man went fully into a trance.
Yeah.
And it takes over his whole body and he's not aware of what's going on around him.
But she's not that type.
No. Hers is something like... it's like a light medium or something like that. Where
she's auras around people.
She could see everything. She could tell you everything, but she didn't. She was still very aware of what was going on around her, so she was in control of the situation.
Our reading is quite common to see that light and to see different colours around people. Apparently.
She did officially pass some official. I can't remember the examination. I meant to write it down, but she did officially pass something to prove everybody wrong and to prove that she was clairvoyant.
Is that the same as being a medium?
I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. Clairvoyant is more, yeah.
Medium is kind of like talking to the dead, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I think it's an interesting story. I think they stretched it. I mean, maybe they came across some paranormal stuff.
I've got a clairvoyancy test in front of me now that I'm going to take in a few minutes.
Do you know what? Oh, that would be cool. You fucking...
I said that to you. What happened to you to the day? The thing that started leaking. And I remember I said I went to sleep going, oh, imagine if that happened. And it actually happened. See?
So Amy's going to become a clairvoyant now. So you can get your readings at It's Alive Pod.
Not yet. Let me see what StatCrunch tells me first. And I'll post the search.
But I will say, in both cases, when it comes to Walton and the Warrens, we want to believe both of them. Do you know?
Absolutely. I would love to believe in the existence of aliens or the existence of... Because it's comforting to know that, like... If there was such thing as ghosts, it is a kind of a comforting thing that there's something there. There's something there. But I am heavily, as much as I love all this, and until I have solid proof, I am heavily skeptic as much as I would love to believe.
I need some more.
Yeah,
which is why we want to go on through these investigations and check.
Remember in our first house, and there was that light that used to swing in the ceiling, and the two of us were like, oh my God, it's a light. It's swinging on the ceiling. And then we realised it was the heater underneath. No, it wasn't even the fan. It was the heat, and it was rising it, swinging it. But I mean...
See, if I saw something I saw on paranormal cotton camera in front of me, then I'd probably believe a bit more. I have a bit more of a fucking trust in it, I think, because of stuff we've seen around here and stuff like that, and from talking.
Well, there's that, and I would say the shadow person, yeah, that I had alleged shadow, maybe a shadow thing, but yeah, you don't know.
And that's what we're going to investigate.
I couldn't find any movies playing near Dingle today.
Oh, that's
okay. So Alexa just started talking
about movies in Dingle, which we didn't ask them.
Okay, so our ghost wants to go to Dingle.
We're going to cut this off right now.
We're going to go to the cinema in Dingle and chill with our ghost.
We are not going to go to the cinema in Dingle because that's asking for it.
What?
Because our haunted Alexa just told us to go.
But we know this area right behind you is haunted. We've been talking about it for ages.
Is there a cinema in Dingle even?
I can't remember.
Let me have a look. Is there a cinema?
Anyway, I will say one last thing. We were watching the Jimmy Carr special the last day. You fell asleep for it, so you won't know the joke. But
I was awake for most of it.
He was going on about his jokes and who he, he was like, I know who I can slag off and who I can't slag off. And this is kind of another reason why the likes of the Warrens might get a lot of shit. And it was like, he was like, I can come in here and I can tell jokes about the Christians all day long and I don't have to worry about shit. And he's like, I'm not going to come in here and tell those same jokes about Islam. And he's like, what, you think I'm crazy? And he's like, I'm not going to do it. And he was like, and the Christians turn to me and they look at me and they go, why is it okay to do it to us and not to them? And I'd say to them, go strap a bomb on yourself, blow something up, and I'll stop telling jokes about you. What are you going to do now? Forgive me? Fuck off. And then he just started laughing. So, I mean, that's the problem as well, is the Christian faith is an easy target.
Yeah.
For skeptics, because it is all based on forgiveness and being passive, even though they are in multiple wars and constantly.
Supposedly based on forgiveness.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. So, I mean, like, yeah. So, realistically, they're not going to murder you for slagging them off. Whereas other religions might take it a bit more seriously. Anyway, that was a good one this week again. I enjoyed those four subjects. I'm loving the new format. It's definitely suiting us better. But I do think we are going to have a scenario soon in the next couple of weeks where somebody is going to take up more time than usual. Because I was saying that to you that...
Oh, Bundy.
Sometimes we're going to have a case that does need to be covered. And it's going to take up... I wouldn't say a whole episode, but we'll try and take up half an episode of it. Whereas the mini monsters might be split up into two.
Okay.
So part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, look, I've already said it. We're doing Dexter. Bundy fits in with Dexter. We're probably going to cover Ted Bundy in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It'll take up at least half an episode. And we'll talk about him then. But at least you won't have to listen to us for an hour, regurgitate all the shit you've heard about Bundy before, and we'll be talking about other stuff before and after. And it'll be fun.
The exact same way as we do Sonny Bean when you finally let me do him.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I like about this. We're able to shift between a few different things. And everything connected this week, which was kind of a bit weird. We found connections Even though they were
But even
purely
Robert
random
Knox
choices.
today, do you remember that connection?
Yeah.
Robert Knox, who Burk and Hare was selling the bodies to, he was a producer on this Ed and Lorraine Warren documentary.
Oh, yeah, that was crazy.
That
Well,
was
he
mad.
wasn't.
Well, he wasn't,
It
but
was just someone
A.
named
Robert Knox was.
So we were, yeah, okay. So that was awesome.
Yes.
Now I got to do a bit more research into Travis Walton and the Warrens, to be honest. I want to know more about both. Let's see if I can make my mind up on this.
I want to watch more about Ed and Lorraine Warren, but I'm pretty certain that while he was treated, he's been treated harshly, but something tells me that he might have just been, if he believes he was abducted, he might have just been drugged and held by actual humans. He had track marks in his arms.
He claims he passed drug tests. Government drug tests. Proper big fucking
What
drug
was the
tests.
thing in his arm, I wonder? He had
He's
a bunch
an
of
alien.
one-toothed alien.
No, they injected him with something.
That wasn't detectable to us. But
I
having
don't
said that, 5 days missing, maybe they could inject him with, no, that doesn't
I
make sense.
don't. Look, the only people, when it comes to alien stuff, the only people who know are the people who experience it.
Yeah.
You know, ghost stuff you might be able to show a bit of evidence of, and you might be able to prove little bits and pieces of, or you might be, at least you can bring the people back to the area where the haunting happened, and you can kind of let them experience for themselves or feel it for themselves. Because a lot of people say when there's these haunted places, you walk in, you will fucking feel the presence.
Yeah.
Whereas with
heavy,
an
yeah.
alien,
You see the light.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, they're gone. Once they're gone, they're gone. And chances, the chances of them coming back to the same fucking spot again are slim to none, you know. So, I mean, it's at this point when it comes to alien stories, the only one I am almost certain happened is
Freddie and
Roswell.
Bernie. Oh, Roswell. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Betty and Barney Hill is.
I just have a soft spot for James Earl Jones. That's all.
We gotta get into it again because fuck me, they played some of Barney Hill's hypnotherapy, hypnoregression.
I was just about to say it. It's the same thing that
And,
they used on
Travis
Travis
Walton
Wilson.
thing.
Yeah, Travis Walton, sorry.
And he is screaming, like he's terrified in this hypnotic
But the only
state.
thing is about hypnoregression, they can't tell if the difference between false memory or if it's an
I
actual.
said that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I said, we'd have to look into it a bit more, maybe come back to him again and talk a bit more about Travis Walton and the Warrens when we get more information on them. I mean, it's not like the Warrens are going to show up again. I mean, since we started this show fucking a little under a year ago, these fuckers keep popping up left, right and centre. So well, I'm sure we will get to the Warrens again.
Absolutely.
I mean, this was supposed to be about Annabelle. They got more in that little fucking... I would love to go see their museum.
So would I, especially after listening to the daughter talk about it and say when we walk in there, it's
Just
heavy.
for
There's
fun.
something.
I just want to see it. I want to see all those kind of things. But you and me are kind of that mind anyway. When we went to Amsterdam, like, the first thing we did was like, let's go to the dungeons. You know?
That was amazing.
Anyway, all right, we've been going for an hour and a half. Let's get out of here.
Okay, lady, I love you.
Back
Bye.
next week with more. See you later.